Right guys, welcome back. We're going to give you a rundown on where we're at with the car, what we've done, a few updates. So here's our little to-do list with everything we've got to get done. So as you can see, it's 2 pages. There's actually another page on the other side of the car. But we got to cross our first thing off last night, which is different axles, which is pretty cool. Obviously here, brakes, seats, bead locks. We're not going to run bead locks. We've decided I want to keep the car old school. I don't want to be I want it to turn up with steel wheels on it, and you know what we're going to use instead of bead locks is we're going to put wheel screws in it, which is what they would do back in the day, which will save us 3.5 grand, which is fantastic. The wheel screws are like 20 quid. Cage, we've booked it in with Wayne for the end of January, beginning of February. He's going to put a full cage in it. He's going to mount the seats to the cage. He's going to tie the front rails in through the firewall to the cage. He's going to do a parachute mount, and he's going to do wheelie bars. Wayne's the king. I mean, this guy is just an artist. You should look him up. He's under Intergalactic Custom Shop. Super guy, killer fabrication. I've never seen anything like it in my life. So we spoke to him about Lexan windows, but I don't think we need Lexan windows. If we do run Lexan windows, they want us to keep them in the factory frame. So one of the windows is busted anyway. I think we're probably just going to run the front windows in Lexan. Keep the rest glass. Front suspension is going to come from Viking in the States, so now that we've got the front and rear suspension in, we can take those measurements for those guys. Still need a fuel system, still got to put a steering rack in the car, still got to find our ignition system for the car, but we're going to run a new 6AL2 which has a 2-step built in, which is really cool, and it's only about 350 quid. Still got to get a prop shaft done. We're going to get a chromoly shaft done through Andy Robinson in Reading, Andy Robinson race cars. Still got to put a trans cross member in it, fuel cell, fuel system, engine and transmission diapers. So they want us to wrap the engine and trans. Obviously, if you have an accident at the track, you don't haul the track down. And we had a phone call the other day from Kenny, who's building our motor. So we've just paid the remainder of the parts, which is everything now. We've got everything. So like Kenny said, the motor is going to be killer. It's going to be pushing 1500 plus easy, which is more than we wanted, but it's just the way we've gone. So yeah, little update on that. So we had the rear end in the car, as you know. The additional components were axles and a heavy duty centre. It was about £4,000. So I spoke to a good friend of mine, Wayne Allman. A lot of guys will know who that is. He's got a top fuel dragster. It's a VW bus. Just in conversation, he said, look, I've got a whole strange rear end here. You can have it for 2 grand. So quick think overnight, yeah, let's jump on it. And funnily enough, I took a photo of my rear end on Friday night, stuck it on Marketplace and sold it for 1,600 quid. So we've got everything we need, as you can see here. Strange 35 spline axles, heavy duty 9/16 wheel studs. We've got a set of 5/8 studs for it as well. And you can see the difference. There's the 35 spline, and there's the standard 28 spline. Just these 2 axles alone would probably cost me about £1 grand, even before I got them shipped. So, absolutely ecstatic. Strange diff centre. This one's got 411 gears, but we're going to change them to 355s. Strange full spool. You can see it's strange like that. And a beautiful fabricated sheet metal 9-inch custom housing. So, it wasn't a 4-link car. We're going to keep this because we'll use these mounts for the wheelie bars. We'll leave the top mounts on because I have a feeling later on we'll probably 4-link the car. This is 6 inches narrower than what we had in the car. So what we ended up doing was pulled all the suspension out after we installed it. We had to slide the hangers in 1 inch on either side. So we relocated those. And what we also did, if you look over here, we had an extra inch clearance on the rail. So we've taken the lip off the rail and welded it up so that it's, you know, it's got some strength and structure back in it. Threw this in the car, bought some new spring plates for it, squared it all up in the car and put about 3 or 4 degrees on the pinion. What we did notice last night, which is probably not uncommon, we couldn't work out where the leaf springs were sitting a little bit funny. So chassis rails aren't zeroed. So got under there last night with my iPhone actually, with my angle app, and zeroed all the hangers. So now the thing's dead square. Got these tacked on. The next step will be throw it back in the car, weld everything up and move forward. But result and a half. I mean, this rear end owes me 600 quid instead of 4 grand. So extra couple of days, you know, in fabrication, but job done. So we bought these 1510s only a couple of weeks ago. There are 5 on 5.5 wheel stud pattern, which is Ford F100. But the axles that Wayne have given us are 5 on 4 3/4. Lost sleep over this. We're going to keep the rim. We're going to cut the wheel centers out. I'm going to get some wheel centers from an F100, make up a jig, and re-weld them. And what we can do is we can literally bolt that wheel center onto the axles in the car, and then we can get that thing, that wheel shell right where it needs to be. Because I want to run old school wheels. I want to run steel wheels. I want to run black wheels. Like I said, with, you know, big set of slicks and wheel screws, as they would have raced in the 60s and 70s, you know. I was just a little bit worried about the wheel screws with the horsepower, but Wayne tells me it'll be fine. Yeah, we just have to literally drill. I think we run 8 either side. They give you a template as well. They're literally just a little self-tapper that just bites straight into the bead of the tyre. So bit of a pig to change apparently when you're changing tyres, but we are going to run a radial. Which I'm happy about, because we won't be changing tyres from the track to the street on drag week, so unless we have an issue. Right guys, so we're around at my mate Chris's house. He's been on a couple of videos. I refer to him as Jerry Attrick. Good old boy, very knowledgeable. Been in the car game 50 plus years. So just around at his place, I'm going to give you a little bit of a walk through as to what he's got in his sheds. Really interesting guy, so let's have a chat with him and see what he's got to say. He does exactly what I do, but he's done it for what, 50 years?
55 years, running my own garage, just restoring and repairing trucks for people. And
where were you before? Enfield's up London,
Enfield, yeah. Cruise Hill, Enfield. Yeah, well, that's all I've ever done really. But 1952 Chevy, I went on holiday to Texas and found it on a stall, on an auto jumble stall. Bought it and then realised, oh, I've got to get it back to England. And I found someone to do it for me, and they shipped it in 1979. No, my brother died, and I drove it to Southampton for the funeral and put his coffin on, put him on the back.
Did you?
And it snowed, like a foot of snow. I mean, I don't know how I ever got to Southampton.
It's a nice send off though, isn't it?
Oh, you see the pictures of all the flowers on there. Oh,
He would have loved it, wouldn't he?
yeah, he was a lorry man anyway, and how can he go in a modern hearse?
You can't do that, can
So
you?
me and my brother and Sue, we all drove down there and
That's
done
brilliant.
the funeral and drove back home, yeah. I see this truck about 7 years ago in Royston Town Centre on Easter. He brought it to the show, and I asked if he wanted to sell it, and he said, I've only just bought it. He's having a bit of fun with it. And then 7 years on, I see it in his workshop. So he asked him, and he said he'd sell it. Chevrolet C10.
It must have been restored, what, 15 years ago or something?
They started it in 03
Did they?
and finished it in 08.
40k
£41,300 they spent in bits.
It does. Got a small block, Chevrolet, all 350, turbo 350, power steer, AC, power brakes. It's just a beautiful car. Have a look inside. Come right now and opens up, right? It's just... I like it. It's cute. Yeah, so this is a 1936 Austin 10 Cambridge. Again, popped up on Facebook for an Austin Owners Club. He originally wanted offers in the region of £5,500, which is not out of the ballpark. A few months later, I saw it up for sale for £3,500. I was pretty lucky to get in there. It had only been listed for about 10 minutes. So made a quick phone call and said, look, I'll give you $3,000 for it. I'll stick some money in your bank and I'll come and get it. I got there. It was running like a bag of shit. and it was missing the sunroof, which we have anyway. We have another panel, but it ran so bad. I just said I don't want the car. I'd just driven 4.5 hours, and I was going to come home empty-handed. He just spent £1,000 trying to fix this running issue. It was at a reputable classic car restoration company. I kind of figured it was down 2 holes. Quick phone call to Chris. He said, look, they're bulletproof, those engines, it won't be much. So I just said to the guy, look, it's not as described, but I don't want to go home empty-handed. He was kind of talking 2,500, 2,750, but I nabbed it for £2 grand. Got it home. Funny story is though, just Chris and I pushed it in the shed, and he just threw a battery charger on it because we knew the dynamo, the alternator, wasn't charging, and we knew the battery was flat. So threw a battery charger on it overnight. Chris walked out the next morning, pushed the button, and it's running on 4 cylinders. So these muppets were trying to tune an engine and stung this guy 900 quid with no voltage, with no power. Who in their right mind does that? Trying to tune an engine, they know the dynamo ain't charging the battery and the battery's flat. So 12 volts straight to it, and it runs like a top. So a little bit of paintwork to do on the roof, but all day long, £6 grand car, and we got it for 2. So have a bit of a look.
Low on fuel, isn't it? Sniff it with this, it tells you whether it's, if it fires on this, whether it's fuel or it's a spark. God. Tells you it's fuel. Right. That's how you know. Magic potion.
Got a wet plug, so it's running on 3 cylinders, which is pretty standard for something like that. We flooded it trying to get it running, but just driving up and down the driveway, I've never driven one of those cars. It drives, steering, brakes, no squeaks, no rattles, everything is tight. You could drive that car every day. That's what Chris says. The steering's amazing, the brakes are amazing. That is insane. Usually, because they've got cross-ply tyres, loads of paint, usually they're death traps. That thing probably drives better than your Peugeot.
Yeah.
Which wouldn't be hard. That's amazing, dude.
Make that box one now.
It's incredible, isn't it? The steering, the brakes, it's not even a rattle.
Clean the plugs.
Yeah.
That'd be as sweet as a nut.
I've had quite a few of these. Not one of them has ever driven like that. £2 grand, dude.
Cheap, innit?
Oh.
I paid 900 for that, and that was cheap.
Your mum ripped you off.